Views on this program are opinions of dental industry experts and not necessarily those of dentist advisors. Opinions shared in the following interview do not constitute personal financial advice. This program is furnished by Dentist Advisors, a registered investment advisor. You're tuned into Dentist Money Industry Expert Series. Now here's your host, Reese Harper.
Hi, welcome to the Dentist Money Show. This is Reese Harper, your host, and I'm here with Heather Colicchio from the American Association of Dental Office Managers from New Jersey. And I'm really excited to have her as a guest because we've been waiting for a while to have somebody give us a lot of insight on everything that happens up front. And I think that there's a lot of mistakes that a lot of our clients make, a lot of our listeners make related to office management. Sometimes it's like a kind of an afterthought. I'd like to welcome Heather to the show.
Hi, thank you so much, Reese. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Let's go ahead and have you introduce yourself a little bit more than I did, and give us a little bit of background on how you got into the association, got this started.
Would love to. So I'm the founder and president of the American Association of Dental Office Managers. I started the association 12 years ago now, with no dental background whatsoever. I never worked in a dental practice, only went to the dentist to have my teeth cleaned. The way it came about was around that time, I owned a chain of gourmet cafes. So not at all related to dental. It was cool.
Stuff.
It was fun. I got a call from a friend of mine from college who was a dentist, and she was leaving a group practice to go solo. She had given her notice. She had that entrepreneurial spirit, and she was ready to go, except she called me one day freaking out going, what did I do? You know, in dental school, they taught me how to fix teeth. I don't know billing or coding or software or HR or any of the other things I need to know to run a practice. Yeah. And I said, well, don't worry. I said, I'm a member of the Specialty Coffee Association of America. They're my go-to resource. There's got to be a go-to resource for office management. And in helping her find one, realized there was not one.
You went through the search and didn't see anything.
Went through the search and
they had one for coffee.
They have one for everything, Reese. I mean, it would blow your mind if you knew what there were associations for.
Yeah.
But not one for dental office managers. And, I said, this is unbelievable. There are associations for the dentist, the hygienist, the assistant, the specialties, but not one for the person who is
in charge of pretty much
managing the business.
Everything, yeah.
Right? So pretty mind-blowing. So I sort of casually started just putting some feelers out to find out who the go-to was, and what came back to me is there is none. But when you find one, let us know. Please, we are so alone. From the office managers, we are so alone. We have no support. We have no resources, no good place for continuing education. And so very long story short, what sort of started as helping out a friend, I saw the need and started the association, and it grew very rapidly. So about 2 years in, I sold the coffee business and devoted myself full-time to ADOM, which turned from a habit to a passion, and just devoted myself to growing it and bringing all the resources that were so needed in this particular part of dentistry.
That's super interesting. So talk to me a little bit about some of the things that, as you were building the association, some of the initial kind of challenges or programs that you started feeling like you needed to focus on, right? Because office administration probably has 12 subjects, 15 subjects,
Yep.
Did you just it was probably hard to see all of them right out of the gate and understand exactly
there were
the depth
so many
yeah.
coming at me at once that I could see them all. It was a little bit difficult to know which ones to focus on. What I heard the most from the dental office managers is I'm so alone. So if you think about it, the dental office manager is the one responsible for, like I said, managing the practice, it's a business, managing the business. He or she, at that time, 12 years ago, mostly all female dominated, they were alone. And if they had a question about anything to do with the practice, about the billing, about the coding, about HR, they had no one to turn to. And that's really difficult because there was at that time no formal education for dental practice management. So they were learning on the fly. They had no one within their practice they could turn to because the assistants and the hygienists didn't necessarily know, and they didn't really want to go to the doctor and say, I don't know how to do this. So that was probably where I saw needed, the immediate help. And so to that end, I created the ADOM member forum, which is where they started to go, and that's what really, I think, helped the association kind of get, catapult, because we started to create this network of support. and they were sharing resources and they were so open to do that because we're a national association, so it's not like they were helping their competition next door.
Yeah, totally.
If
Felt like a really collaborative group.
They're extremely collaborative, they're extremely supportive. They all want to excel, they all want their practices to excel. And so that's kind of where we started. And then, from there we started to bring in more of the formal business education.
So you started with a forum for the forum, and that forum kind of help people collaborate and kind of self-diagnose or get tips on their own situation.
Exactly, and sort of, help them know where to go to find the answers if other members couldn't provide the answers. And it's a secure, password-protective, private forum, so they're in a safe environment. And what it helped me understand too is, wow, they really need more help with insurance, or they really need more help in understanding software. So that kind of helped guide the direction of what education we knew we had to bring to them.
It's interesting that there's not really a career path that the market has. Like in most industries, there is, out of a service industry, there are education tracks that start to appear for every position within an organization.
Right.
And that was not there, or that continues to not be there, is kind of interesting, because most of the office managers that I meet, it's if you're lucky, this isn't their first time around. But a lot of people are getting into this for the first time. A dentist gets out of school, or he's 3 or 4 years in, and the assumption is, I'm just going to bring someone in to help me figure things out. And sometimes there's not a lot of background,
Right. Well, what I saw in the beginning, the pattern was mostly assistants who were working chairside and then would maybe just answer the phone, and then maybe take on a little more front office responsibility, and then one day they were the office manager, which is okay, but it's not really ideal. It's not ideal. And speaking about your point too, there, the formal education, there was none. Now, a decade later, there is plenty, and I can speak to that later, but there's plenty of formal education where you're actually being tested and earning certificates and earning credentials. So that's the case. What I'm seeing now, actually, is the best office managers come from outside of dental, so they bring the business knowledge. They come from real estate. They come from banking. So they
marketing,
have marketing.
Whatever. Yeah.
They bring the business knowledge. You can learn the dental.
Yeah, it seems like, I don't know, it's interesting. Sometimes I'll walk around conventions and I'll see booths where it says, by dentists for dentists, no matter what subject it is, right? The dentist started it, so consequently the dentist must be the expert in it, right?
Right.
And I think sometimes, while that can be beneficial in some segments of the industry, I didn't come into dentistry with a dental background, and you didn't come into dentistry with a dental background. I think sometimes bringing a different perspective that isn't totally shaped by the industry can add value in ways that you wouldn't otherwise be able to.
Right. And I think it brings objectivity.
Yeah.
So whether it's our association, your business, or an office manager or practice administrator coming in from outside dental, sometimes that just clean slate of being objective and not having loyalties to certain companies or bad habits that they're bringing from other practices can be a plus. And if there's a fantastic dental office manager who's been running a practice successfully for many years, then they might be an excellent fit. But I think dentists need to open up a little bit, and when they're looking for an office manager, think outside of dentistry a little bit.
It's interesting, and I don't know if most people probably wouldn't assume that they don't necessarily have to have 10 years of experience in dentistry in order to do a good job.
Exactly, and a little bit of what we're seeing now too are advanced degrees, MBAs moving into managing practices. And I think too, part of the mindset is, yes, it's a practice, but at the end of the day, it's a business.
Yeah.
It's a small business that needs to turn a profit, that needs to succeed financially. So you want the person running your business to be really good at what they do.
Yeah, and I think if you're, especially in today's world where you're competing with DSOs and you're trying to maintain some level of independence, if you don't have competency in that office management position, in finance and accounting a little bit, some marketing, HR, compliance. I mean, those are standard business skill sets. And if you hire, if you don't hire to an adequate level of competency, it's tough to compete with other businesses, other dental offices that have chosen to do that. I mean,
Right.
you really need to invest heavily in that role.
Absolutely. And when you get the right person in that role, it's very, very important for the dentist to give that role authority.
Yeah.
So you can't, and we say this a lot, you can't just give the title. You have to give the
It's not
authority
titles.
with the title.
Yeah.
So if you're bringing someone in to do the things, a dentist, they're clinicians, and that's where you want to be chairside. No one else in your practice can do what you do.
Yeah.
Chairside. Delegate the HR, delegate the compliance, the HIPAA, the OSHA, the marketing. Give it to someone who, that's what they're good at. That's what they are there to do. And, dentists, I think, they like to manage and oversee. And I think learning how to delegate in any business and having the right people in the right places and then allowing them to go and do their job so you can do what you're good at is really key.
But why do you think that dentists struggle to let go of parts of the business operation? Why do they struggle to hold on to some of those responsibilities? And
I don't know that there's a right answer to that. I have my theories. I think dentists, like I said, they're clinicians and they're used to working just, them and the patient and kind of getting in the zone and working in that solo way. So it is difficult, I think, to now turn around to the other end and say, I'm handing this all off.
Yeah.
When they're at the chair, that's their domain and that's what they do and they own that. And it's difficult to own one part and not fully, have control over the other part. And I'm not saying they shouldn't have control, but delegation is key.
It seems like, at least for me, it seems like sometimes it's hard to give up responsibility if I don't trust the person I'm delegating to.
Right.
So hiring the right person probably has a ton to do with being able to let go, right?
Hiring the right person, and if you hire, you always want to hire the right person, but when you have the right person in place and you have to build the trust, so maybe you start slowly, slowly handing over responsibility, and once the trust is built, you continue. But I think key also is continually investing in that person, and making sure if you have a business manager, you want to make sure that they are up to date, that you're sending them to the shows, that you're sending them to the conferences, that they're
giving them continuing education.
Continuing education is so crucial.
Yeah.
I mean, I meet office managers who've been in practice 30 years and no CE.
I tell people that a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like they can't. The salary that you budget for cannot be the only expense that you think about when it comes to staffing.
Right.
Add 10% to the cost of your salary.
Yep.
And then you're kind of starting to get to a place where that's an adequate investment.
Yeah.
You're going to have benefits that you need to provide so that people can have a secure career, a dependable career. You're also going to need to invest in continuing education in order to improve the quality of your staff. And I just don't.
Yes, I'm a huge advocate on continuing education for the entire dental team. For the administrator, for the hygienist, for the assistant. We run into so many times, even assistants and hygienists, where the doctor is hesitant to invest, and that's the key word, invest in their continuing education, but they're investing to help your practice succeed. It's not something they're going for personal development. They want to be better at what they do. I have a team. I invest in their continuing education because it's going to benefit the association. And likewise, investing in a business team or a dental practice team, that's just it. It's an investment and there's ROI. And if you don't do it, you can't keep up.
I think that's a really good insight. And from a financial perspective, when we look at the personal financial statement of a dentist or his personal worth, what he's worth, the value of the practice is anywhere from 10 to 50% of his total personal worth by the time his career has kind of concluded. And dentists who invest in their businesses and who invest in continuing education and grow a solid staff that has a lot of tenure and that has been around for a long time, those practices tend to have much better values, right? And
Absolutely.
And that's a measurable, when you sell a practice, a lot of you probably don't know this off the top of your head, but when you sell your practice, you're going to pay a lower tax on the practice when you sell it than you will just earning a salary. On your salary, you're going to pay anywhere from 30 to 50% of taxes on that income, and when you sell your practice, you're going to pay 15 to 23% tax. So if you can invest in your business and grow the asset and then sell that, you keep a lot more money than just pumping up your salary.
Yep.
So during your career, it pays a lot to reinvest in your team.
Yep.
So that you can benefit
long
at the end of
term.
your career.
I couldn't agree more. It is an asset, and investing in the team, not only does it bring the immediate ROI in that they're going to have knowledge that they can implement and be more productive, you're going to build loyalty, and you're going to keep good staff, and you're going to continue to enhance that asset.
It's super rare to see someone really value continuing education, make that be the forefront of their employee value proposition, right?
It's crucial. I mean, it's critical. You can't look long term if you're not doing that.
So let's hit a couple of things that are on. Let's hit a couple of like bullets on top maybe 2 or 3 things that you would focus on training an office manager, right? If you had someone come in and you were going to do a check on their preparedness for the job, what are some primary areas that you'd say we've really got to make sure these skill sets are solid?
First, I would say an employee handbook.
Okay.
And that, again, that's not something a dentist should be doing.
Yeah.
Is creating and revising an employee handbook, and that's so important because, for many reasons, it helps your practice run smoothly. It protects you from liability down the road and lawsuits, and we have so many practice managers that that's their responsibility. They don't know where to start. So I think that's a key.
And an employee handbook that contains instructions for all areas of
the practice, job descriptions, all your policies,
procedures,
policies, time off policies, kind of protocol. So
benefit stuff, like
benefits. So it's all laid out. It's all in one place. Everybody signs off on it, and then you're good to go. There's not these big kind of huge question marks around that. You can kind of put that to bed. The employees know what they're supposed to be doing. They know what they're entitled to. They know what to do if they feel something goes wrong. So that's really, really important. Secondly, practice management software. Every practice has one. Another place where I think investing is key, and there might even be more of a time investment to make sure not only your practice administrator, but your entire team understands your software, knows how to run the reports, knows everything it's capable of. I mean, all the good software, they're so robust. They're designed to make your life simple.
But they're deep, right? It's not like a...
They're 20 levels deep.
Yeah, it's not an email you can just go and check and it's easy to figure out,
No,
right?
but the bigger companies, the solid companies, they have trainers.
Good trainers.
Who will come in, and that's something else I would recommend to the dentist. Let the trainers in. If it means, blocking out a couple of hours of patient time, again, the investment. We had a member, I can tell you, he was running his practice on one of the big software, and tip that he learned at our conference, just running a simple report that he was unaware of, he came back and told us that's saving his practice 20 hours a month of staff time.
Manual
because
staff
they were
time
doing
to
things
do
manually, and he had no idea that with a click of a button, all those reports and all that data would be right there in front of him.
That's awesome.
So I think that's really key, is making sure you understand the software, understand what it's capable of, what reports it can run, and then what to do with those reports, how to kind of analyze them, and where what you do next. Something else I would recommend once you have a good person in place is making sure. I'm big on automated patient reminder services. Again, something manual. It's time to move into modern times. I know some dentists have a hard time advancing, and moving into an unknown technology.
Yeah, it can be a little scary to figure out how to apply something. And
it can be, but I think if you have a good office manager, they are willing to tackle that and take that. And so many things that can be automated. I think if the dentist kind of says, yes, I trust you, go with this, it's making the practice more productive in the long run.
Totally.
The other thing I'm seeing with dental office managers is social media. A lot of the social media responsibility is coming to the dental office manager, so I think allowing them to take that over and learn that is beneficial. You don't want to be the only practice not on social media.
Okay, so we have, in a summary here,
Yes.
we had the employee handbook to
Yes.
kind of master. We have competency in the practice management software.
Yes.
We have
I mentioned automated patient reminder,
patient
but really
reminders.
that's just kind of blanket for any technology for front office management.
Yeah. And then we talked a little bit about social media
Yeah.
and being able to master that have some level of support.
Yeah.
I mean, every one of those things I feel like has a great resource,
Yes.
right? Or two.
Yep, sure.
People don't need to feel like they're isolated doing this stuff. You know, it's just sometimes, I don't know why I feel like this way in my own life. Sometimes I'll go months working on a problem, trying to figure out a solution when really it's a phone call away.
Exactly.
You know? It's like...
Exactly. Or it's just a Google away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. Sometimes I think as entrepreneurs, we're so used to like working, like digging ourselves out of a hole and
Yeah.
like being the only one that has the shovel. We just
Yeah.
keep digging and digging and digging
Yeah.
until we find our answer. And then we, you know, sometimes the better response is to have, you know, there's a bunch of people with shovels. Have them come in, help them dig the hole with you, you know.
Yeah,
So,
and
anyway.
I'm big on outsourcing as well. If there's someone who can do it better, faster, stronger, bring them in.
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know?
one thing we talk a lot about is dentists have, depending on the survey you look at, they have the second highest income in the country. Certain specialists would be ranked maybe the highest, and some are maybe in that number 2 range. But per hour of their day, I mean, each hour that they can interact with a patient and sit in a chair and do a clinical procedure, I mean, there's almost no service that's more expensive than that. I mean, even the most expensive lawyers in Silicon Valley don't charge the same per hour that a dentist can make if he's in the chair. You know?
Exactly. And again, that's why I'm a strong advocate. Be at the chair.
Yeah.
There's no one else who can do that but you. So
Yeah. Well, this has been a great interview. You did an excellent job. I really appreciate it. Added a ton of value, I think, to our listeners. So, again, Heather Colicchio, you said the acronym in a way I hadn't heard before for the organization.
Yes, it's the American Association of Dental Office Management.
Or
ADOM.
ADOM. Okay,
Yeah.
So we're gonna use that here.
ADOM for short. Yep.
Well, Heather, thanks so much. This has been a great interview. We really appreciate you having on. How would people get in touch with you if they want to learn more, and how do they sort of get involved if they'd like to?
Sure, that would be great, Reese. If you wanted to learn more about ADOM and what we do and what we provide for dental office management, the website is dentalmanagers.com. So it's dentalmanagers with an S.com. And we also have a special promotion for your listeners. So if they wanted to join or have their office managers join, they would just enter code DA125 at the end, DA for dental advisors 125.
Okay, Heather. Well, it's been a pleasure. Hopefully we have you back on the show soon. And
That would
thanks
be
for
great.
taking time, okay?
Thanks so much.